All right. So yes, if you're looking at these maps, everybody got a map like this. The B is the lake.
I have to turn upside down because I'm used to coming from Addison, so, and the lake is always on my right.
That's fine. If you need to turn it upside down, you're coming from Shoreham, though. That's the problem. If you turn it upside down, you're in Shoreham.
Well, then how come the lake is on the right of you?
Because the lake is that way.
That's the right, and we from Addison, that's on the right.
That would be on your left. Or yeah, that's on your left right now.
Yeah, right, but where I live, and I'm coming from where I live, it makes it easier for.
Okay, well,
It turns my brain around, so.
okay, so let's talk about the why. That's not the why yet. So let's talk about the why we're doing this. Okay. The reason I wanted you to hear it from Lyle is because Lyle does talk a little bit about the why. Okay. He says why we're doing this. Because there are spiritual legacies everywhere. Everywhere we are, there is some kind of a spiritual legacy that has been put there. Some good, some bad. You know, sometimes we're in a place where First Nations came through here, First Nation battles. There could be some things that are not necessarily good. But this area right here for I made an actual list. Oh yeah, this is a notebook that we can put all of the. This is the master book that will stay here. So I made
the map right on the front of that map.
yeah, it's a hard to read map, but it's the map I had until Margaret offered to have a map. I tried to find something. So probably past half of them. Okay. So I made up a document. I didn't get it all typed, but this is what I found. This is so far the history of our church, right? Freeport is chartered in October 9th, 1761. Mm-hmm. Permanent settlement made in 68. Town legalized and organized in March 29th, 1785. August 6th, 1789, provide subscription to hire a preacher. This circuit rider time. So, and it's a committee of 3 men. They decide to pay £20 per year, and they're going to meet in Solomon Moss's house 2/3 of the time. And I gotta ask Margaret where that is. But Philip Stone was the other house, and I know where Philip Stone's house is. Philip Stone's is, if you're on this map right here, Philip Stone lives, where's my house? Here's my house, Bridport Village, my house, Lake Street. So right here, we're probably a Ducat right there, that house. That might be it, or it might be in this gray space. Mm-hmm. It might actually be where it says Stone.
Yeah, is that what?
Yeah, so probably where N Stone is right now in 1857 is probably Philip Stone's house.
I'm looking at the back of your plate.
Right there.
Okay.
So right about where the top of the B is. So that's where Philip Stone lives. We know this because I have been on the tour with Margaret and with Uncle Wallace.
Yeah, that helped.
Uncle Bub. If I'm gonna most likely call him Uncle Bub, not that's Wallace, okay. Because I didn't even know his first name was Wallace until I was in my 20s. And so just the deep, rich history of where people lived in the first, and Philip Stone is officially the first settler. The Smiths have a little bit of a debate on that between Nathan Smith and Philip Stone, but that's not anything we need to really be aware of. But so anyway, so 1/3 of the time is going to be on Lake Street down there, and 2/3 is someplace else. We haven't got to a place of actual house of worship yet, but we've got 2 spiritual wells here that are not this church right yet. Okay, and so this is all. Okay. Yep. Okay. Oh, look at her. He's got the smart thing.
Nancy gave
That's
it
nice.
Yeah. So I would say though the probably where that first stone there by the letter B up just a little bit up from the letter B on Lake
End
Street.
stone, yeah.
Yeah, end stone.
Oh, there, look, if you get the light.
So yeah, so that is very likely that's a spiritual well.
Mhm.
Now that's on private property, but if we were to want to open that one up, we'd have to talk to the private property. But then you get into before 1790, the worship is in private homes and barns. Clearly, I need to correct the spelling in there. So they also are open to meeting wherever they could. I mean, in wintertime, you might only go to your neighbor's house. You might not be able to get to the village or down there. And then inhabitants of Bridport, this is June 1790. This relates to this house of worship right here. Inhabitants of Bridport found the Christian Church and Society Lemuel Haynes helped organize. I've got more, I just didn't get it all typed up. But this is the type of stuff that we're going to be doing. Okay. Another thing that I did, I actually put something in the notebook, the permanent notebook, which I figured one side can be Shoreham and one side can be Bridport. This is upside down. Because right now we've clearly identified those two targets. And we're a big enough group, I think we're okay to do those two targets. So I found this thing that the West Rutland Church did on Lemuel Haynes, including putting up one of those signs, and I found it in the Rutland Herald. So I took the the information and I wrote who recorded it at the top.
Oh.
Because it's going to be important when we go who put stuff in the binder, and you're going to want to know who put it in. So just jot your name at the top of it, date it, let us know, because this was the 230 years ago in West Rutland. Lemuel Haynes came to West Rutland, so it's not the same thing as our church, but he is the pastor that officially said, "Yep, you guys are a church. Let's move forward." Right?
Is he one of the first pastors? Because I've read about him
Mhm.
and I can't remember.
But he has several books.
Yeah, because this name, when you've seen a name before, it jumps out. Yeah.
I was doing some research on Lemuel Haynes, and I ran across Milton. Well, Donna Pollock and I are good friends. I texted her and I go, "Hey, is your church also founded and certified by Lemuel Haynes?" And she says, "I think so, but I'm in Ohio. I'll get back to you when I get home." About 2 weeks later, I get a text from her, and she goes, "Yes, he is our official first roving pastor." So there's a lot of rich history of pastors, and the unique thing about Lemuel Haynes is he is an African American who was born and a deacon raised him, and he is also not by official degree. That would be somebody else, but he is given an honorary degree from Middlebury College because he is a brilliant person. I listened to a couple of his sermons. He's got some stuff documented because he is such a famous African American male from the Revolutionary War times. How we doing over there in Zoom land? Did I lose you?
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I see what I didn't do. Okay, done. All right. I was like looking over, and my YouTube page was still up. So yes, are we? So how are you? How are we with all this first information?
I'm writing it down as fast as I can.
Well, I'll email you this.
Okay.
This is just examples. This was something that I'm like, and all of this came out of this book. And when I get it all typed up in an outline form, I'll document what book it came out of. But this is something Uncle Wallace wrote in approximately 1965. My father's name actually appears inside it, as does my grandmother, because I am a direct descendant through the Payne line of my family to increase graves. So, and he is our first permanent pastor. So there's a lot of history. I figured out the first two buildings were across the street in the approximate location where the pavilion is. The other two obviously were sitting here. So it's just finding out these informations like this, and we're going to dig into this. We are pulling Margaret in. Margaret doesn't want to be a part of this part, but she is more than willing to be a part of history. So all of your resources, your who is your person, Carol? Down in
Oh, and Shoreham,
yeah.
I'm trying to think, Judy Blake.
Yes. So
Top two.
bring her if she wants to come and
Well, we didn't even get that far, Claire. She invited me to go down there and Pam suggested that 2 or 3 of us should go.
mhm.
But then, and I thought that would be a good idea to have the support. Then I thought, oh no, because they have only 6 people on a good Sunday.
Right.
So if we happen in on a Sunday that isn't good.
Oh,
there
you
might
mean
only be
visiting
2
the church?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's possible. But I mean, just talking to her and getting the church history is what visiting the church is probably something we will do. But right now, just beginning to understand what history they know. Because, I mean, our 2 biggest historians for what the Bridport Church is, are me and Margaret, followed by Aunt Becky, because she lived most of it. You know, I mean, and Aunt Becky was in Shoreham to begin with, but
Right.
she
was in the
apparently
same church I was.
she apparently drifted more because she has stories of, you know, the dude getting his hands caught in those cup holders there because you guys were getting confirmed and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe she drifted a little bit more, but yeah, literally.
I've heard that story.
The guy who lived in the house that's now owned by Pratt's on 22A that has been refurbished. Gun owner. He owned the Sportsman. Anyway, he was part of that story. So it's just, you know, and you have all these living histories. So learning to maximize and capitalize, like I wish we had asked the previous generation, okay, where is the actual tank buried for this building? Because we don't know. I have a great guess. Margaret says there's no way. And I said, well, we don't own that property. So why wouldn't we put it right out here? But we have no idea where the tank is. No idea. Because nobody from the previous generation legacied that information down to the right people. We've asked Tom Hallett. We've asked Gaborio. None of them know where it is buried.
But these churches ebb and flow so over the years. I mean, we're talking a lot of years here. We go back to the late 1700s.
Right.
And they go down to like, we were down to 6.
Well, yeah, they were down to 12 in 89
And
or 99 when they called Tim.
okay, so they ebb and flow.
Right.
And so unless somebody is the church historian actually writing some of this stuff down,
Right.
so there is a written history. We are never going to have a complete written history, and it's hard to go back in time. I mean, we have Margaret. We're lucky to have her. That she is such a history buff, and I think I'm right behind her.
And this is the problem here. Uncle Wallace talks about this. The first 4 pages of the church's oldest record book have been lost, but an index inside the cover states that it was an article of faith, a covenant, and the rest of the book gives lists of members, church records of foundation, baptism, and marriages. The last entry is dated 1836. So, you know, church records, churches burn. I mean, every church has, I mean, they did pull the records. They pulled those ugly church chairs, thrones out of that building. Those are actually from the previous church. They're upstairs. If you really want to see them, they're in the balcony where Margaret put them when we finally decided.
She got them up the stairs.
Well, somebody helped her, I think, but we can't let go of them, but yet we truly don't want to sit in them because they are not comfortable anymore.
But they're a piece of history.
Right. So,
And that's all we have left of, that you can put your hand on.
Oh, yeah.
right.
The original.
So, and so there's all these little things.
And I see a Baptist church on here.
Yes,
Yeah, I
Right above
noticed
the
that.
R.
right. That is.
From the R in Bridport.
So Aunt Becky and I talked about churches in Shoreham, the Baptist church in Shoreham and the Baptist church in, so this right here on North Cream Hill Road and Basin Harbor in Shoreham, that is the Baptist church.
Wow, this is-
I know, I'm coming around.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the Baptist church, the location of the Shoreham Baptist Church is right there on North Creek Hill in Basin Harbor. Yes, I brought maps.
Hold on.
So this is where the Shoreham Baptist Church was. And this is where the Shoreham Baptist Church was, Cream Hill and the Basin Harbor.
Oh, so there's no more than just that she put an X there.
I put an X there.
Put an X there.
So, and the Bridport Baptist Church, which actually Uncle Wallace talked quite a bit about, which I never realized until I started. I'll start with you. It was right here on where Middle Road and, that is not the right place. It is right here. That is my house. It should be right there.
Okay, so it is.
So
This,
yeah,
here it is.
yep, yeah, it's on there. So I put it on I marked my own home. I did, I marked my own home. That's my house right there. I'm like, what am I doing? That is my house. You ever have a moment where you think, oh yeah, I'm really brilliant, Aunt Becky, and I marked it for my own home. Okay,
But does she remembers it as a child, so the church was standing when she was a child.
Amy remembers when Grandpa took it down. Because she was already married to Uncle Chuck by that point. He took it down in the 50s.
You want that, so where is this church right there, this map?
On this map?
Yeah.
So
Right,
Village.
So village right here, it's one of these
Yeah,
little dots.
Okay,
Probably this little dot right here.
okay, and then where's Pratt's store then?
Up here, village, Pratt store would be theoretically right in there.
Okay, because when you said Bridport Village, I think of Pratt's store, but it's down
No,
here. Okay.
that's the that's the beginning of the commercial district for Bridport.
Okay,
There was a Myrick's, was it Myrick's store?
Yes,
That's on 22A, pretty much, not quite across from the Catholic church, but almost.
that's
oh,
Fletcher.
I got you.
That's
now.
Fletcher, and Myrick owned it before Fletcher did.
Used to be.
You're
a
talking
store.
about the brick church, the brick building.
Yeah,
store.
it's a
Yeah.
store.
Silent,
Used to be, yep.
Yeah,
I
Myrick,
went in that as a child.
Oh,
Wow.
Myrick owned it, Fletcher owned it. Then, the one who took pictures,
Carol,
Frank,
there's a book about that store.
yeah, Frank,
There
the old
is?
brick, yeah, the
Oh,
old
yeah.
brick church, old brick
Old
store.
brick store.
Yeah. Maggie wrote it. About their
Maggie-
time, Maggie Rothier.
Oh,
No,
it's a
Noka.
It's a wonderful
Maggie
story.
Noka. Yeah, she wrote a lot of the history of Myrick, the two Myricks that owned it before that, and who owned the Fletcher
And
house.
she's still here with us.
Yes. Yeah. Frank's not, but she is.
Yes, I think she might be one of the people.
She's
that
in your exercise class. Yes. Maggie Noka. She goes by Noka now, but I never really officially. So there's where the church was, across from my grandfather's barn.
Yeah, let me see where is that? And where is today's church? Where is that?
It would be one of these little dots right in there.
Okay.
okay, that helped me a lot.
So here's
That's
that's my house. Just in case.
Okay.
Some days mental illness sets it, right? Oh, okay, there we go. That's where the Baptist church was. So-
Looking up at Bridport, it's got all like the old schoolhouses.
Yes.
I'm gonna see if I can take a picture.
Well, I think you'll find all the schoolhouses are on here. Yes.
What? Margaret
But-
I have bigger pictures and then
Yes.
color of this.
Yes.
From Margaret.
Well, there's another one that has, Yeah. There's another, where grandpa comes in, because my great grandfather bought this property. He lives right here first, and then he moves down here. Erford and Daniel. So, and then Charlie, and then Dan, and then Dad, and then me. So, yeah. So we don't switch names up a lot. We like to recycle names. My family. It makes for a very interesting. And I have a relative named Angel. So yes.
No wonder you're saying this. I'm sorry, it's just a joke.
No. It's all good. I was with 2 L's. It was. His name was Angel with 2 L's. So yes. He is immortalized in the founding of Greenwich, Connecticut. He and his brother Robert were witnesses to the founding of Greenwich, Connecticut. Which is where we ran.
Relatives down there on the Baptist, who did a lot.
So we are, I know my family history, I know, but this is not about my family history.
Right.
Except maybe an increase. Which if we have time and we feel up to it, I could show you where Increase's grave is, because it is out there and it has been nicely cleaned and polished. Okay. Lemuel Haynes is our founding pastor. Our first permanent pastor after the circuit riding pastor era is Increase Graves. Increase Graves is called February of 1794. Excuse my dyslexia sometimes. 1794, and he is he is the pastor here for the next 35 years. When and if you get to read the Open Wells book, you will find a very, very large thing about the 1813 revival, because we joined over 100 people. The one day they joined 99 people. That is not everybody who joined. That is just the 99 that joined on Halloween in 1813. So,
Yeah.
well, it wasn't Halloween like we think. It's All Saints Day.
Yeah, All Saints Day. Yeah.
It's All Saints Eve, actually. It's not all the.
Yes.
But that's, again, you can get me distracted on my soapboxes for people. All right. So are we a little bit clear as to the why we're doing what we're doing? Okay. Scripturally, why we're doing what we're doing. I'm going to move over to the whiteboard for a few minutes. If you want to get a Bible and follow along, or somebody can just read it. Can't read the blue ink, but that's okay. So here we go. All right. These are wells. They are not windows, Ronald. These are wells. I'm not artistic, and I do not intend to be one. So this is a well. So what happens in 2526? Abraham dies. So now the family line and all of his possessions go to his firstborn natural son, not Ishmael, but Isaac. So Isaac has been apparently down with Abimelech, not in his father's land. And so the Philistines come in and they erase Abraham's claim to the land. So Isaac comes back in verse 19 of 26 and says, here's where my dad built a well. Dig the well. And they dig the well, and the Philistines get ornery and they go, no. So he names it after the argument. He names it contention and quarreling, depending on what Greek word or what Hebrew meaning you choose to take. So he says, great, he's not going to fight him. I'll just move on to the second location of wells. So he goes here and he says, I'm going to dig this well. Well, the Philistines come at him again, and he names this one hostility and opposition. They're Hebrew words. I'm not. This is ekis, and this is
Second,
uh,
I never remember.
yeah, Sitna. So anyway, he gets to the third well. He digs the well. The Philistines leave him alone, and he says, "Great, let's name it Open Spaces, Wide Spaces, Open Streets." So he names it that. But now, this is the important part. Remember, Lyle said about opening new wells. Okay, he wasn't just content with opening an old well. He goes to Beersheba, and he has an encounter with the Lord. Now, all encounters with the Lord get altars, so he builds an altar, and they dig a well. And so that's in 23 and 25. The third well is in 22. The second well is in 21. And the first well is in 19. So why does he? So he also gets the covenant. I, the father of Abraham, now I'm going to use you to build the nation of Israel, right? Which isn't yet called Israel because Israel ain't born yet. But anyway, your son is going to be pretty powerful. So this is a new place and space. So you take my camp. Okay, I'm just going to throw that example out. So my camp is an old place of spiritual opening,
Yes.
but it is not been used by Christians. Okay, but it is definitely an encounter place. It has been purified. My board for Oasis Acres and Pam, we all went out and we prayed over that land. But even before that, I was having crazy wild encounters, right? But so that land has been dedicated, and that would be considered be a new well. And we're not going to go opening that well up. I mean, that well is leaking, but it's and there's literally wells and springs all the way through this. There, when we put in my driveway, my roadway across from the farm supply, that would be letter. Let's see, where's my house? That's Middle Road. That's Basin Harbor. That's a pond. I'm on the wrong road. No, I'm on the right road. Myrick Baptist Church. Oh, I know that's okay. So if you go down to here,
Oh, okay.
right there, okay, camp is straight up from there, about where the H would be, right about there, roughly, 3838 Crown Point Road. Those of you playing along at home, there we go. Okay, so that would be more of a new well. But it is definitely a place where I've had multiple encounters with the Lord. From 1987, when I started visiting there, straight up till when did I go there? 2 Sundays ago. You know, I have encounters with the Lord. I get marching orders. I get moments. I get divine ideas and creativity there. It is an open well. I've opened it. As has my board and Pam. But we're looking more here, okay? We're not looking where the resistance is. We get resistance. We can either choose to be like Isaac and keep moving to where we know. And we already know 2 beautiful open wells. That one is leaking, ours right here at Bridport. Is a leaking well. This is not a well that I think is plugged up. It's not as free opening as it's gonna be, but it's leaking. And we wouldn't have things that we have for stories. In the last 25 years, the amount of testimonies coming out of this church is crazy. Because this well is leaking. I know this, y'all don't know this. Tim, you mentioned you knew about spiritual mapping from I don't remember what book that was. It's long ago in my historical section of my book. But anyway, somebody wrote a book called Spiritual Mapping. Well, Steve Siemens, while I was in seminary, Asbury, we read the book and we know it was about this sort of thing. A little bit different spiritual rooting, but it was the same thing. Tim did open some of those spiritual wells here at this church. Because Tim and I had one conversation about a book. I said, "Oh, you have that book on your church on your thing." He's like, "Yeah, I walk around and pray about the town green." You know, not a lot of information we exchanged on it, but he did do some of the opening of the wells here in this community when he first came here in the early 2000s. So that's part of our spiritual legacy of why things are dripping here. Because if you were part of this church before 1989 or 1999, it wasn't super flowy. I mean, we were a church and we had more people than we presently do, but the Holy Spirit wasn't moving like he is today. You know, so we're standing on the work that Tim did. We're standing on the work that we've all been doing, and what Jeremy did, and what so we're standing on the shoulders of a lot of people with what's happening here at Bridport right now. Yes.
Explain to me why you say it's leaking.
Why am I saying it's leaking? Because it's not flowing as well as it could be.
Okay.
So, but because we have miracle signs and wonders that come from this house, I say it's leaking. It's not
It's a
free
good thing.
flowing.
It's
Yeah.
a good thing.
Yeah,
That's a good
exactly.
thing.
Absolutely a good thing that it's
Okay,
leaking.
that's what I was asking.
Yes.
Is it a good thing or a
Well,
bad
at least
thing?
it could get
Right.
bigger and bigger and bigger.
So less like a well, more like a spring.
Right.
It will not be stopped.
Yeah.
Springs here too, by the way. But anyway, it just keeps happening, right? On the land. Now this house here and as I said, you missed this. Our first meeting, we talked about some visions that people had, and bring that picture so you can see it, Nancy. And Pam took a screenshot of it. I recorded it and stuck it in here somewhere. Somebody finds it before I do. But
Are you talking about this?
yes, that right there.
I'll put it right up to you.
Yes, perfect. So
Well,
Nancy, show that. Let the two Nancys see that because we'll go over that really quickly. Okay, so we just asked everybody who was at the meeting what they knew of the Bridport Church. Okay, and so we had Bob when he first came here to preach. He got the chains. That's from him. He saw all the houses had chains on them. So
oh, yeah.
that was, but then a day or two before we had our first meeting, he saw those chains getting hit with the spring water that's coming out of this well,
Okay.
and they were dissolving. So that's the first one there. Then somebody said that Addison County had a spirit of pride and control that we need to break. That was what they were seeing. Okay.
That was Ron.
I was not gonna name names, but okay. I did name Bob, so I guess I can. That was Ron.
I felt the spirit
Right.
when I first came in.
So
Which is as a spirit of witchcraft.
so then Rich with Potential every season, Psalm 19, 1-3, Romans 1, that was Pam. I know, because Pam always backs everything up with lots and lots of scripture. So that's a sign if you see something. Claire doesn't. Claire comes at it with scripture later. Now, Shoreham, Bridport, Cornwall, and Addison all linked. I don't remember who said that, but somebody did. But anyway, the towns are all linked. You know,
Yeah.
we're probably going to find that Lemuel Haynes did not just found Bridport and Milton. We're probably going to find he founded more churches. And by founding, it doesn't mean that he came in and sowed the ground. It means there was a party of believers that said, we want to organize a church. You got to grab an ordained person to put their stamp of approval on it and say, yep, you guys are a church. That's all that founding
The Baptist
stuff.
church in Addison too, and
Yes.
the town's only like 6-7 miles, 5 to 7 miles apart,
Yes.
each one of them.
But keep in mind, you walked to here and there and
Yeah,
everywhere.
I know, yeah.
So when you start doing that, so then you get into John 7, well in Shoreham, Cornwall, well, whole community, ours. The first one I know came from Curtis. He was talking about he had a vision well in the Shoreham Congregational Church. He had this vision, and it's funny that we're talking about open wells because that's exactly what he saw, and that's what he did. And he was probably the whole community and the church. I think that was this here. He was talking about this because I noticed Pam wrote it under Bridport. So then you get into the bottom one is my crazy vision. Okay. So multiple visions actually. And you'll laugh to think I didn't know I was a visionary. 2005-ish, because that's when I joined the Bridport Church officially. I'm peripheral before that, but in 2005 I just started attending here. Tim put me in charge of the children's ministry, all of this. And I told him, I said, this is like a leaky bucket. It feels like revival is just about to happen. Like a 5-gallon bucket is set right on its edge and driplets are happening. And if you saw what was going on in the first few years I was here, it was crazy wild times in our church. Growth exponential. We were like the third biggest congregation in the county. All kinds of stuff that was going on. We had 140 base of people and about 50 plus youth and children. Yeah. I mean, this church was way too much for one man to have. But that was the stats in the day.
What year was that?
05 to 07.
I came in at 06,
Yeah.
and I left when
Right.
I come back.
So that was the biggest population of our church was before 08.
I remember this.
And we were in conversation, should we build, should we hire a new second pastor and all this stuff. And back in that day it was 200 was, I can't even imagine. Now it's like 80 and you start hiring a second pastor. But anyway, in 18 I had this weird idea that I was like, let's open up the wells. And I told Jen, and Jen was like, I'm not digging a well. And the board wasn't digging a well. And I was like, I don't know. So for me, it was a word out of season. I didn't know you dig into words. I just thought every stupid thing that came to my head, I said out my mouth. It didn't help my life a lot. So 2021, I'm on a walk. My favorite walking ground is my house to Fitzy's house and back again. And I'm listening to James Gold book, and I go, and one of the activations at the end of it is, why don't you ask the Lord what you're seeing? And I go, okay, Lord, what am I seeing? And I look over, and Myrick's Woods is all aflame. And I go, I need to dial 911. And I look again, and I'm like, it's actually, if this is the tops of the trees, it's right here. It's right here. It's not in the trees, it's on top of the trees. And I go, okay, next question. What am I seeing? And he says, the revival fires that sit over Vermont. And the revival fires that sit over Vermont, it's not just here. It's actually, somebody else also had a vision. They made a scroll and all kinds of stuff. But it's just right here. And so I finished the activities as I was doing it. Okay, how do we pull that down? Well, he gave me Deuteronomy 28, just the blessings. And so Margaret and I and Audrey, and were you in the group at that time too? When we were praying with Audrey?
I think so.
I think
Was
so.
was this on a nice day when we were like looking out at the water? Or was it on a cold day we were?
Any Wednesday evening when we prayed with Audrey.
Oh, yes.
So anyway, we started praying those blessings over, and they were predicting the third worst year drought for the state of Vermont, and the rains started to gradually come. And the rains kept gradually coming to the point where by the end of July, I was like, okay, Lord, the corn is starting to yellow. We need to stop the rain. And literally, I mean, seeds that hadn't germinated in May were germinating in July, and the corn. The second cut was a little poor quality, but the third cut was great. Because we had restored the water table in July, and the rain and the rains went to normal seasonal in August, periods of dry and periods. So we literally, through that strategy, shifted the environment and culture here in this place and got a crop off when they were like, we're just not going to get it much for corn. I mean, all the farmers were talking hopeless stuff. So literally got a strategy from the Lord. All right, so 2022, because I hadn't figured out I was a seer yet. I don't know what book I was reading. Could have been Wendy Backlund's Unseen Realm. But anyway, the Lord says to me, hey, you want your primary way of receiving from me? And I go, aren't we doing it? We're having a conversation. And he said, no. And I have this open vision. I'd like to say I was saying it was my first open vision, but now I realize I've had several open visions. Where I'm walking into this building, there's hundreds of people walking into this building. There's meals. I realized the question mark was the Alpha program. I hear Fire Starters, which is a Bethel curriculum on the Holy Spirit. And then this place just starts to explode with people to the point where there's a church service going on there, a church service going on in here. 2 different pastors, 2 different, slightly different styles. My dad's getting out of a wheelchair. In between, there's a Latino church meeting, which at that time we were trying to plant a Latino church. There's a youth group running around in the middle of between these 2 buildings, and we owned the town. I mean, we bought the Catholic Church. We bought all this strip down here. We owned the parsonage still. I mean, it was crazy, wild.
We still do.
Something. And then, I got, right when we were getting started with this, how big this well that is leaking is. I mean, it encompasses this building, that building, and at least the pavilion over there. So it is. So people are driving up and down the road getting leaked on by our spiritual. And when people come and visit, sometimes, special people, I'm one of the liaisons, as is some of the rest of the board members, they'll be like, well, and I was like, what? And they're like, I feel the Holy Spirit. They're out on the street. And I'm like, yeah, I hear it's pretty cool. I haven't felt anything in this church in 15 years. So, but I can tell you what I see. And I'm okay with that. I don't feel, I see.
I'm very feeling.
Right.
You're seeing, but they go good together.
Right. And so these are the active visions that people are having. And if you've had any, we'll add to the list, because we can recreate some of this stuff and we can just add to it. What visions you have, not right now, but just be aware of that sort of thing, because these are what we need to be.
So I had a dream, but I won't tell right now.
Right. These are the things we need to know, because I see in part, you see in part, you see in part, you see in part. But when we start getting together, we get a whole picture. that's why this, this is hugely important. That not just houses in change, but as our flow of water hits them, their chains are dissolving. These are important things, right? And I mean, I went in a little longer on mine because I'm the one running things right now. But it is this really big, huge thing that we need to be aware of what dreams people are having, what words are coming up. On the 19th, I'm planning mostly a prayer meeting because we really do need to spend some time doing some prayers. Before. The 19th is Wednesday. It's our 11 o'clock to whatnot. Thank you.
Oh, Gary?
Yeah, before the lunch thing. And this time I don't have a noon, so all right, any questions on that? Any thoughts? Yes.
When do you wanna hear about anything we later? Not this time.
Not this time. Write it down. Throw it in the book.
Because
Talk
there's-
about it.
There's only one word, but I could give you the word that's.
Yeah.
Arise, arise, arise. It's praising the Lord, arise, arise, arise.
No, fits totally with something I see over at Addison County all the time. Yes.
Real briefly,
The-
the song the Lord gave me when I moved to Milford was Arise, Shine, for your light is come.
Yeah, see, so there's 3 confirmations on the third. But that there's something about a rising up. And we need to add that too. We need another page. We need to include everybody else's what they're seeing. That was just our first meeting in November, December, whenever we first met. So why? Let's just cover a little bit the process. Okay. And I'm gonna be heavily into this book because the process is in this book. Okay. All right. So
Page,
yes, I'm going by page number.
oh yeah, you don't need to use that.
Yes. So if you first page 3 is Lyle telling you again how he started this process. Okay. So hopefully here. Yeah. Somebody share with Nancy, please.
Okay, I won't be able to.
Yeah. Vicky,
yeah.
share with Nancy, that's good.
Oh, here's
Okay.
my pen.
So it's just a forward of this and the process and a little bit of testimony of what they did in 2014.
That was on page 3, yeah.
Yeah, on page 3 and 4. Okay. And then 5 is the biblical support, basically this stuff that we taught.
Let's get it started.
And then that takes us through to page 8 and into 9. Okay. So that's just the biblical basis. That's why we spent some time talking about it. They spent two sessions talking about it. And then we get to reclaiming our spiritual inheritance on page 8. That is what we are doing on page 8. We are reclaiming our inheritance. That is the biggest why that we are doing this. Wells have been blocked up and it's our time. We're being called to reopen them. And we are. And we have to discern which targets through research and development. So then a lot of talking about spiritual wells on page 9. And how to find somebody to do somewhat. We never officially made me the chair, but I'm kind of acting as chair. We probably should nail that down at some point.
Nominate Claire as the chair.
I
Yeah, but
second
when we on the 19th as the
Okay.
I would love somebody to take notes and do the meeting notes, cause I can't do both. But anyway, so, but that's for the next one. So anyway, he just lists some suggestions and getting to know your town historian, lucky us. Our town historian attends our church, town historian in Shorehams, you know, I mean, you and Curtis probably, yeah, Sue McIntyre. Just getting to know and talking to her and connecting and writing stuff down and making a copy for yourself and putting a copy in here. So that, you know, if you talk to Sue McIntyre on the 14th of February, type it up, make a copy for yourself and you and Curtis, and then a copy for in this book here, so that so that if somebody says, oh, you know, that way they're not, oh, I need to go talk, oh, you've already talked to Sue McIntyre, okay, you know, so we're not, and that's why I need to register our group that we're doing specifically right now, Bridgeport and Shoreham, and we're opening a well so that if for some reason somebody from Cornwall starts going, oh, maybe I should reopen a well in Shoreham. Oh, wait, there's already a group in Bridgeport doing that. Okay, I'm good, right? You know, that's the part. And I'll be honest with you, Addison County, we had more people at the lakes than all of the other counties, and it was in Washington. But that's the nature of our church, though. When we had concerts of prayer, we would travel, and we were almost always. Sometimes we were a bigger group than the church that was hosting it. It was kind of scary, but that's just our nature. We will travel. We will go after something and go and travel to get it. So, all right. So that takes us through page 10. Page 11 is what we're working on right now, defining our targets. So right now, we officially have two broad areas, Bridgeport and Shoreham. A little bit more specific areas, Bridgeport Congregational Church and the Shoreham Congregational Church as our two initial targets. It doesn't mean that we won't do the Catholic churches. It doesn't mean we won't do, you know, St. Bernadette's up here. It doesn't mean we won't go to the Baptist church down there or the Baptist church on the corner of there. It doesn't mean we won't take care of them. But we can't hit 17 targets. But we can hit 2. Right? So, and this church joined together in 1939 with Shoreham. And then eventually became the UCC. They were apparently a loose congregational society before that, as near as I can tell from the research. Then they became the UCC. And then in 1979, we left. So Dwayne Kellogg, who officially baptized me, was the last UCC pastor Bridgeport had. I don't know how long, if he stayed in Shoreham after that or not, but I know he left here in 1979. So those are things. I'm yoked to the yoked church too, because I was born into the yoked church. So it's important. I had to see that, and so I was really grateful that you and Curtis brought up some of that stuff. And I will get all of that typed out in this, but this is as far as I got. I'm typing up my notes. And the short period of time I had, my mom came home, so I had to go focus on my mother. Sorry, that's the truth reason. Okay, so moving into page 13. Just what role do you want? So let's just say we need a chairperson and a secretary, and then team members. What role are you? Are you an intercessor? Are you a researcher? Are you a writer? Please, somebody be a writer, because I'm a talking to my phone, and then I need an editor after that. An organizer, a community connector, like Carol. Carol connected us with the community of Shoreham by knowing Sue McIntyre.
Well, I know Sue McIntyre,
Right.
who is the town historian
Right.
down there. but Judy Blake is the person I contacted about the church.
Right.
And I will probably contact her and
Start doing
go
research.
forth with wherever I get steered. I find it hard to think I'm gonna miss the Sunday school here and the service here if I go to their service.
I know, honestly.
Well, and who says you have to go down there? Maybe it'll be a Sunday when Bob is away and we don't have a Sunday school. I mean, don't worry about that type of thing yet because God hasn't said go now.
No,
And so,
no.
yeah. So,
And, I'm not sure, but we should just be praying for that congregation, from what I learned just from talking with her.
Right.
That-
She doesn't have a page 13.
I don't have a page 13 either.
I do.
okay, so Claire needs to make page 13 too. Okay, that was missed in our conversation. You also didn't have a page.
13 and 14.
13 and
Wow,
14 I
You
missed.
also didn't have a page 17 and 18 because Claire would lean on pages. I'm sorry. And you have them. They don't have them because they're me printing pages. So give me a post-it note of whatever page is here. Write down, Nancy needs an entire book. Tell me what pages I did not make for you guys and I will print the pages. February is a short month. I will get some printing done.
Claire, I
You have to go?
now.
Okay. I will send you the YouTube link on the rest of this and you should be able to catch up with the rest of it, okay?
Okay.
Cause that's why I did it to YouTube because
That's 13,
I got it
14,
master recorded on my account and then I've got it on my YouTube page,
Okay.
my client YouTube page. So don't subscribe to it.
13 and 14.
Yeah,
No, Nancy and Carol, anybody else?
yeah. I know that I did the same thing with everybody. It's Curtis.
Printer, who's got a printer?
I don't.
Are you the only one?
I have my
You take
picture.
stuff off you, Claire.
No, I'm the one that has the master copy. I have the master copy of this from Lyle.
Okay.
I got this from
Oh, I
Lyle.
see. Okay.
So all I gotta do is
Oh, all right.
make it print.
Alright.
So I apologize. When I first initially printed this stuff, we only had 300 pages. I tried to keep it short to what we needed for then, and now we're into the next
Oh, I
one.
don't have 35 and 36.
Yeah. Those are
Okay.
extra duplicate pages. I'm not printing those.
Okay,
No,
we don't need those.
Oh, we don't need those?
they're duplicate pages like
Oh,
who the
okay.
chairperson is, research notes pages. You can take a blank page and 3-ring binder. If you want some blank pages with 3-ring binders, I already have a whole bunch of blank pages with 3-ring binders in here. Okay, yes, thank you, Caesar. And add Ronald or Curtis onto there, please, because Curtis,
For a book or?
no, the
Pages.
extra pages, yes, because Curtis doesn't have them either. So, okay, so on page. The page you guys don't have, I will take it out of my notebook and I will show you what it looks like. So what is it? It is. Oh, where am I know why, because we weren't into research. So it has some resources that you can link to. You should have it, because yours came from Lyle.
Yeah.
So,
I have that one, Claire. I
okay,
have it.
so what it is it's the important government page. You guys have them. Good, you guys all have them.
Oh.
You get a whole book.
Yeah, get a hold.
You're getting a whole book. So anyway, it's just sites. So I went on to one of these. I found out I don't know anything more about Francis Asbury's trip than what I got from the 2 pages, the 2 highlights in the green book, in this book, right here.
Yep.
When I refer to the green book, this is the book I'm referring to. David Foxworth's book. Yes, and I did buy an open wells copy so that, and I marked it pink on one end, that's all Bridport. And the other color, I don't remember what it is in the other book. In my book, it's green. This is all Shore.
Can anybody go online and buy one if they
Yes,
want to?
they're
What's
25.
the name of it?
Here,
Fire.
Fire in the Green Mountains. If you want your
Because I
own,
need to know more, cause I was from
Right.
New York.
right. And so these are,
I can roll it.
that is, I mean,
Get it at the bookstore in town.
you might be able to.
You know what's good too, is look at this.
If you wanna give me 25 bucks, I can order a few. You know, like I've got so much out of Uncle Wallace's book, this would be a secondary source, not an original, because he took the originals and wrote this up. I know Uncle Wallace is super, super detailed. I know this is with the exception of maybe an occasional typo, because he did type it out all on typewriter. He is thorough.
I go to use some used bookstore sites and.
You might be able to find that used, you
Yeah.
might not.
Yeah,
Cause
I'll
it
look
is,
there first and then.
right, cause it is a specialty. When I didn't buy it when it first came out, cause it was $70, and I was like,
Ooh,
no thank you, David, I'm not paying that much. But then it went on Amazon and I was like, 25 is reasonable to buy.
Maybe I
Yeah.
can get it books on.
Claire,
Yes, ma'am.
I called all around the used bookstores up in Addison County. No one has that book or knows anything about it. And Amazon is selling the new one for 25, and that's where I got mine.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, you might find one, but most of the people buying them, it's a niche market. It did only come out in like 2019. I mean, he actually
Yeah.
had the marker that I was sharing that information with you guys on Lemuel Haynes's marker. I didn't realize he did until I was reading it again and went, oh, here
Fire
it is.
in the Green Mountains by Dr. David Foxworth.
And so,
It was 25.18 on Amazon.
yeah, that's,
But ABE Books is a secondhand place, and they've got it, I think.
okay, alright, well, that's good. Alright, let's keep
Okay.
moving on
Yep.
to the notebook orientation.
Okay.
So this just gives, he's done some smart stuff, like Vermont records and stuff like that on page 15. That's all this stuff is. Every town had a newspaper. We have a lot of those. The Henry Sheldon Museum has a lot of those. Margaret goes in there and plays around with the Henry Sheldon Museum. Somebody could go with her and she knows how to do that. This is why Margaret is a very valuable resource, but she did not choose to join us. But she did choose to be our point person when we get to research.
That's a
Right.
helpful thing.
Right, so she's on the researcher. Pages 17 and 18 are just what to look for. Significant blocks to spiritual wealth, historical events, people, businesses, industries, lawlessness, disunity in the church, false teaching, cult activity. Significant spiritual wells, historical events, businesses, people, spiritual breakthroughs, church growth is on one side, and the other side is, and you just note some stuff and then pull out a blank sheet of paper and kind of use this as your index sheet, So then he goes into how to research on page 19. We want documentation and verification. Hence, I put where, that I got it out of the Rutland Herald. So I put this out of the Rutland Herald. So I went up and I copied the link site and put it in there as part of the article. So doing things like that, if you find them on the web, like I looked up Francis Asbury's journal number 2. I read it from the DC library. Didn't have any more information than Foxworth had, so I didn't bother to buy the book. But so sometimes we're not going to find useful information in the first sources that are great. So, and then successive meetings, some points in times we're just going to meet and talk about what we found.
Yeah.
And get excited and fire everybody up because there are exciting things that we have found. Does anybody else know that Tim Franklin spiritually mapped some of this place? Just me. Margaret might not even know that because I saw a book on his bookshelf and asked a question about it. And I got a tiny little bit of information out of it. Because I didn't know I should have asked more. Right? Just that he would prayer walk around the place. And but I don't know what he did. And then again, 23, which probably I didn't print for you guys because it's chronological events of your region, significant events. I probably didn't print that one. I may or may not. Sorry. 24, playing your prayer event. Okay. So he gets into this. We'll go over this before we actually go and plan with a little bit more detail. Page 25 is just a record of places. If we go to Shoreham and Bridport, we need to document when we did it, what we did, and then start seeing and celebrating the significant things that shift. If we go to camp, we'll put that on here. That's the stuff that's here. Record site visits again on page 26. 27 is some declarations, some general ones. Again, some more open wells declarations. Page 31 is if we find like there was a brothel somewhere in town and we decide we need to shut that spirit down. There's one for shutting that down. Creating an open well on page 32. A new well, right? And then establishing a new well, and he ends on page 34 with some final notes. I'm also not printing pages 35 for you guys because every one of these is a duplicate of something you already have.
Now, I didn't have page 23, was it 23?
Yes. So did you need, is 23 is the chronological event thing? I think that's all it is. And again, I can print it, but
Yeah, I have 22.
yeah,
Oh, and then maybe
yeah,
that's, no,
this
but then it doesn't, I don't
this is
know,
what it is.
23 and
It's
24.
one line at the top of the page, which
Okay.
is probably why I looked at it and went, I'll pass.
Yeah, how about 24, is there 24, cause I don't have it.
Yeah,
It
yes, you do,
goes
it's
from,
right
it's
there.
the Duke, sorry about that, it's the
Just on the
23,
wrong side.
it
Yeah,
went from 22.
yeah, I know, so
Okay,
I
that's
did
fine.
do that sometimes, and I may or may not print that page.
Yeah.
Because chronological events of the region, spiritual significance, you can put that at the top of the page. Alright, any questions on the process?
We're gonna learn as we go along too.
We're gonna review this stuff, this is just everything Lyle talked about. Cause Lyle did this part, Father Leo did this part, Father Leo took 2.5 hours to do this. And I will get Father Leo's YouTube videos, access to them they're probably on My Faith News. If you wanna watch the full 4 or 5 hour training, you're welcome to do that too, I will send those out. But any questions? How we doing on time? 15 whole minutes extra. Maps are good. We will have more and more maps going on. We will have maps. We'll probably have a master map, a big map. I've got this little book right here that has, some stuff on it. So if you need you want to detail a little bit, you can. Orienting yourself to it is always exciting. I've kind of mapped Bridport and Shoreham. I marked Bridport and Shoreham. Any other questions? Any thoughts? Have I overwhelmed you? Anything from Francine's world? Yes, apparently we did. Okay. So I am leaving the master book right here. Theoretically, it doesn't leave the land. Somebody wants to make it pretty, they can make it pretty. I just put a map of Bridport on one side and the map of Shoreham on the other. But I figured I'll stick this extra sheet in here so it's not just loose too. But it's not a complicated process. It is time consuming though. I understand Ron not wanting to be sitting here 3 months from now and just talking, but this is not something you run out and just do quickly.
We
This
gotta
is
be on the same page too.
research and know what you're up against and move forward, right?
Right.
So. And Carol had it. There is, there is a 24-page Word from Chuck Pierce that can also, nope, not that one. Everybody got that one.
Oh, okay.
Except the new people's books, because that's the short Word.
Right.
But he came in May, and there's a 24-page word transcript of his
I
word.
think I read it.
Yeah, you did. Carol has it, and it'll just get passed around because it's 24 pages, and you may or may not find, it's good. It's the Vermont, New Hampshire word, and so it's because we are joint.
Yes.
I mean, you cannot get over that we were at one point the New Hampshire Grants. There was Massachusetts claim on us, New York's claim on us, and and we bought our way away from New York. We had to pay to get New York off our back. So, we have a very rich history. I could teach on the War of 1812 from this Bridport church perspective with Margaret sometime, and we could really hit some stuff. Because, and that's this thing too, is with some of this, knowing what happens, like let's take the revival in 1813, right? What's going on in this area? Two things. One, the War of 1812 is in full blown right out here in our yard,
I think that.
right? And something called the yellow fever was rampantly taking out people quickly and efficiently. So you've primed the pump with a national war where the British troops are trying to mass a force from Canada to take the infidels back and make the 13 colonies theirs. And they know France is in total upheaval with the revolution there, so they're not going to be coming to our aid. And they think, oh yeah, let's just walk right in and let's take this colony back. They ain't got no allies anymore. And so the War of 1812 is on.
That was very interesting. My husband needs a card to do
Yes,
some errands.
no problem.
So
I've got-
only have one card.
I've got 10 more minutes, so I'm gonna, just
Yeah, go
talk
ahead.
a little bit longer.
Okay.
So that sets the stage, and these are all important things that we need to know as we're going and talking about this stuff, because it's what's going on. That the war is political. The yellow fever is pandemic-y, epidemic-y, and it shifts how you think about life. And so why was 1813 such a significant year in the town of Bridport? That's part of it. But if you don't know what's going on historically, the big picture historically, most people don't know that the War of 1812 was ended at the Battle of Plattsburgh in 1814. And then there's this little skirmish down in Alabama because they get word on the ship that was going around to go battle them.
Can I ask you,
Yeah.
you know, when Middlebury College was established?
1800. Yes. I've had a vision for them too.
Yeah, because that's one of the reasons I'm here.
So, it's a really, and they were founded as a school for ministers and teachers. So they have a deep, rich spiritual history. Curtis can share with you some stuff about a group of people who went up from Middlebury College to UVM and got their head handed to them,
Wow.
trying to bring revival up, and why? UVM has a very different foundation of why it was 7 people, 7 politician-y type people founded the school, not ministers and teachers. Very much more political school. So you got a different atmosphere there.
And because I came from Dartmouth, which also started that reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Dart has a very rich history as well. Very, very rich.
I read a very interesting before you go, Ghosts of the Orphanage. And it's goes into great detail about St. Joseph, somewhere in the region.
Yeah.
and how the kids were treated in history.
Yeah, the Catholics. And we wanna just say it was the Catholics, but it's so much bigger, it's so rampant.
Yeah.
It- they were just the biggest organization that you can put a pin on. Oh. But yes, so that's another thing. Oops. The short word. So this, Pam was actually there with the. Yeah, so I mean, we get a lot of rich history. And we're just tapping back into it, that's all there is to it. And it's, there probably will be some resistance, but we're not going out looking for resistance. We're going out looking for where the wells are and tapping. So. Any final questions or thoughts?